Confectionery Production speaks to Paul A. Young, the UK-based chocolatier, about his experiences during the past few months amid the pandemic, and noting some of the key trends he's observed and how he's taking the business forward in these challenging times. In terms of just how you're physically coping with events amid the pandemic, how's it been for you personally and for the business as well?
Personally, it's in a weird way, it hasn't affected me too much other than kind of shopping and things, but it's because we've kept the business running. So my daily life has still been going to work and traveling to work on my bike or public transport. So I haven't had to stay at home for any length of time, but it's obviously changed the business a lot. You know, it's we launched online, shops have been shut, we've had to furlough staff. Well, we opened in 2006, so it was well before social media and all that kind of thing. And we just did what we wanted to do, which was to sell great chocolates, handmade on site, and people loved coming in to see us. And we didn't launch the online store until this year, but not because we didn't want to, just we were at full capacity all the time, doing all the things we were doing before, and you need a lot of space to do online. So with having the Soho shop closed, we had the space to do it, and we needed to do it to capture business around Easter to help bring money into the business. But as with anything with chocolate, if the weather gets warm, there are no sales, very low sales. So and you can't post out. You know, you don't want to put a box of chocolates in a collected by a Royal Mail van, sat in the van, then sat in the sorting room. They'll just get damaged and they don't get to the customers well. So there are challenges with chocolate and posting out, doing online.
As a concept for the online sales, how important do you believe that's going to be for the business going forward?
It'll be vital at Christmas. I don't expect there are going to be a lot of tourists in London this coming Christmas, especially not in the West End. So it will be vital. It'll be huge. It'll be probably busier online than in the shops, I think. That's just because there's no limit on how many customers you can have online. You just manage your inventory well, and if you sell out, you make more and you keep going. So I think it'll be huge online, to be honest. Yeah, it's just getting it right. I think we were one of the very few that weren't online, you know, so most other people were online in some way. So I think that a lot of other people already have it sorted online and they manage it really well. So,
how have you adapted the business in general terms to kind of cope with the pandemic?
We haven't adapted it at all other than open the online shop. What's going to change is how customers shop with us in the stores. It's the same rule for everybody. So no more than 2 customers. You know, there'll be a queue at the door, hopefully. Will have to be. We'll select all the products for customers. You know, we're pretty much going to be doing everything for them, but they can still come in and have that nice experience of coming into a chocolate shop and have the smells and so on and so on. So that's the adapting bit, is just contact and keeping people at 2 meters whenever possible. And also if people are confident about coming out and coming into shops, I think people are getting more confident. And as long as we show that we're doing everything, so followed all the rules and guidelines, then I think everything it'll tick along. But for every retailer, if you've got small footprints in the shops like we have, is 2 customers at maximum at any one time going to be enough customers to cover the rent costs, wages, bills? I don't know. We don't know if that's going to work yet. It might not.
And just on the fact that the stores are reopening now, how vital is that to you, in your eyes, the chance to actually trade physically in the stores there?
People want to come back, you know. I know that people want to come and see us, and they want to have that connection and choose their own chocolates and do something else other than just walk around. They want to get back into shopping a little bit, especially on, you know, destination stores. And a lot of people don't buy online. There's still a lot of people that don't want to buy online, or they want something tomorrow and you can't necessarily get it tomorrow unless you're Amazon or that kind of thing. So I think it's going to be vital for everybody, but you need footfall, and you need, as the confidence grows, it will get busier. You know, it's going to take a little bit of time.
See that, and I wonder if you could kindly tell us about the new moulding process. Is it Make-You, is that how you pronounce it? Sorry.
Make-You, Make-You form box.
I think this has been billed as a revolutionary process. Can you explain how you believe it's going to make a difference to?
Well, we've had the form box for about 2 years. maybe a touch longer. And before that, if we wanted molds making, so if you, particularly for us, because we're bespoke and we make on site, if a client comes to us, and generally, and this is not in me anyway talking down about anybody, but generally, if you've got a big company, corporate company, are wanting something bespoke for clients, for client gifting, for an event, for a conference, you tend to find that either the boss's assistant or secretary or a runner or an intern even is being given this challenge of, I want you to source 500 of this thing of shapes of chocolate with our branding on, and we need them at 2 weeks time or 3 weeks time or even next week. That happens a lot. And if we were going to the mold makers, which we use two different ones, one is in Belgium for professional molds, one is in Halifax up north in Yorkshire. The lead times can be, for the UK, can be 6 weeks plus, and for the Belgian polycarbonate molds, you're talking up to 12 weeks because you've got design, origination, sampling, and so on. Then you've got to buy a minimum amount, and it's backwards and forwards, and it takes a long time. So you end up either compromising on those orders and saying, by having the form box, as long as we can then create the shape or the dye in whatever way, we can form from that. That's a very kind of client-based way. The other way is just for ourselves. We can play, you can pretty much, vacuum form anything if you can make the dye first, to create fun products, unique products. So if you want something a specific size, then the form box allows you to do that without having to then source out and kind of, try and find things or get somebody else to do it for you. So it's funny because the form box covers every genre. People who are making soap, candles, all kinds of things, it just happens to fit into chocolate because we mold it a lot. We've applied it with things like one of our Christmas products last year was a box of chocolate biscuits, which we took all the classic biscuits, took them apart, and formed custard cream bourbon, all those kind of things, to then mold them and remake them out of chocolate, but with all the flavors and things in. So it was a box of chocolate biscuits, but they were chocolates, not biscuits, and they sold out. It was phenomenal. And we made all the sets of molds, molded from them. Now, we wouldn't have been able to do that at all by asking someone else to do it in a cost-effective way.
And just coming on to the market in general, what is exciting you in terms of developments in terms of flavours and any forms of chocolate that you're actively developing at the moment?
I think the current situation has really changed things. I think customers have connected with people more. I think they're a little bit more free with their emotions. They like nostalgia. I think it's going to be comforting things. It's going to be things that are recognisable. It's going to be reinvented things that we know are out there. Like for us, say you asked me to reinvent a Snickers, I could do that, and it's nostalgic for some people, but it would be done without any artificial ingredients, and it would taste different but better, or it's taking influences from the past and making them really present. Ingredient wise, it's still about, for my side of the business, like artisan, handmade, it's fresh ingredients, seasonal, being really seasonal. We need more now than ever to be seasonal in the UK, because there is going to be potentially some shortfall in some crops, or they're not being picked, or things aren't going to get into the country quite as readily. But we have fantastic seasonal ingredients, so we're really going to play on that. We're going to see what is available and use as many as we possibly can.
Very good. And so obviously this has been an immensely challenging period for many people, but from what you're saying there are some positives to be drawn for it in terms of what you can offer.
I think anything bad that's happened, after it's happened, you'll think some good came out of that. I think opportunity does come from disaster. I don't mean disaster in the terms of everything has fallen apart and no one can cope, sure. But with challenges and disaster, there is positives. People get more creative, definitely. They have to be more resilient and thrifty, maybe, and make things go further and think a little bit harder, a little bit more creatively in terms of how to deliver things. So I think a lot of positivity will come out of it. Businesses will adapt and change. You look at all the restaurants that are now doing meal boxes, not just ready meals, but meal boxes where you buy them for a dinner party at home. That wasn't a thing 3 months ago. And now it's huge. And it means, though, that cooking experience at home is going to change a lot. And for us, as a chocolate company, it just means we can put things together in a way that are a little bit more cohesive. So if somebody said, I want a gift box which includes grandma, granddad, all this thing, we can put things together a little bit more cleverly. I think it's just going to give us an idea once people start coming back into the shops of what they missed. So, oh, I've missed such and such. I've missed having this. I've missed having that. I really want to take something to my family. I haven't seen them for 3 months. What is going to be the thing? You know, our conversations will change, which means our products, and we're lucky we have production on site. It means our products will probably change over the next few months and weeks, because I think customers will be telling us and saying, oh, I've really missed such and such. And I'll be thinking, well, we haven't got that now because our collections change. So I might end up bringing things back because people 3 months ago when we shut haven't had them since then, and maybe they're not on anymore.
Wow. So can you share any insights into kind of new flavours that you might be working on at the moment?
At the minute, we're not working on a lot because we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know when we were going to be able to open. We've looked at takeaway. It's like having takeaway food as an inspiration. So we've got a beer and crisps chocolate, a korma and poppadom, really creative stuff, a Negroni cocktail. What are the ones we've got? We've got my head chocolatier Hayley's developed a barbecue vegan burger truffle flavors and sweet textures and spiciness, and there's some interesting stuff in there. But we've got all the classics as well. I think what we're going to do is open, see how it runs for a few weeks, and then start to see how business builds back up, and then start to get super creative again, and then start looking at Christmas. We've pretty much got Christmas sorted on paper, but we have to start doing all of the sampling, the product development, and the shelf life. So Christmas is the big one. We have to get that sorted very soon because the summer will fly past.
But for those that aren't perhaps as familiar with your work, can you tell me what was your original passion that started your interest in the industry?
I didn't know I was going to be a chocolatier when I was a chef. So the chef first for 7 years, and then a pastry chef for Marco Pierre White, and became head pastry chef and did that, and kind of got to a point where I needed to do something else. And I did product development for Marks and Spencer's for a year and Sainsbury's for a year, and then back into a restaurant, then started doing TV stuff. And it was while I was doing the television stuff for Great Food Live, which was on UK TV Food, that I started to play with chocolate outside of work. And the TV appearances allowed me to make a chocolate recipe, or look at the top 10 Easter eggs this year, or the top 10 chocolate Christmas gifts this year. And I just started to grow and develop from that. And I realized really quite quickly that I was being London-centric at that point. London didn't have, you couldn't count on one hand how many chocolate shops there were in London where people made the chocolates on site, didn't preserve them with loads of nasty things, and they were made with natural, fresh ingredients. And I thought that was bonkers because there are bakeries, patisseries doing that. And I thought, well, you go to France, all the chocolatiers are making on site. You could see them at the back or upstairs or downstairs, making the chocolates. So that's when the idea came to open a chocolaterie, which wasn't in London at that point. So we make on site, I lived on site, and changed the products as they sold out. You keep making, and there's no reason to make chocolates last 6 months by filling them full of preservatives or using artificial flavors. When my thought was, well, if I make them fresh, people will eat them fresh and come back for more. That took a lot of convincing for a lot of people because it was new. But that's how it started. It was, well, if you're going to make a lemon tart truffle, it's going to have fresh lemons in, not lemon flavouring. If we're going to make a strawberry truffle, we'll have fresh strawberries in, but we'll only use fresh strawberries when they're in season. And that was a big change in the chocolate industry at that time. And I think that's why we took off quite quickly, was because we were absolutely determined, and we'd crystallized the idea of it's going to be fresh every day. And if we sell out, we close the door and make more.
Do you feel you are as enjoying it and as passionate as ever from when you started out?
I'm going to be really honest, and it surprises people sometimes. I say I have a love-hate relationship, but I always have with everything, and that's not necessarily a negative. It's if I do something too much for too long, I find that I get exhausted by it, and I find that it consumes me too much. So I've tried to learn to get a balance. So, for example, if I just do businessy stuff, I suffer creative-wise. If I just do creative stuff, you miss out on the business side and the customers, and you feel like you've lost a little bit of control. So you have to try to balance things up. And if you're a creative person, I think that's really difficult, because as chefs, we're not trained to people manage that well, to be honest. Right back in the beginning, we're not trained to do spreadsheets and do all this stuff. So, I do every year, and a lot of people will agree with me on this. When it comes to things like lead times, they've got longer and longer. So, for example, when we first started out, I was developing Christmas products in September, October, launching them into the shops. Now we're looking at Christmas in January, February, because the media and press are asking us, what are you doing? And I hate that. We are a seasonal business using seasonal ingredients. There are a lot of ingredients I can't buy when I start developing and doing sampling through spring. And my brain, I don't work like that as a person. I find it really difficult. I like how seasons make me feel, and I like working on those products in that season. But that's because we can create a chocolate today and launch it tomorrow. We're not a supermarket or a department store where all the buyers want to see things well in advance. So there are some challenges that I'm very honest about with people, because when they get into the industry, it surprises you how far ahead you have to work. And I still find that really challenging. You know, I mean, I'm thinking of Christmas now, but that's because we are well into summer. So it's a love-hate relationship. What I really love is those days when we are creating chocolates, but I taste a piece of chocolate from all the varieties we have, or new samples that have come in from different producers, and you taste 10 things and you go, meh. And then you taste one piece of chocolate from a producer and you go, oh my God, that is amazing. It's not a flavor profile I've had before. It's not one we have in our business. It just reignites that there is something out there that you will love, but you've got to get through all of the other stuff first. But if you forget to do that and you get absorbed by all the other stuff, you'll miss it. You'll miss that little opportunity. Not going to go, I want to make 10 products out of that particular chocolate. And I can do that right through winter. So it's quite complex for me, but that's because I've always been like that. I think in another world, well, actually this world, if I didn't have the business, I think I'd probably have a traveling home. I like moving around. I like change. I like new scenery. I like refreshing things, and I've got to make sure that now the business has got me, rooted. I bring that in other ways. I think a lot of people might have that same experience as well. I think.
Well, you've been in the sector a long while now. So, what are the biggest changes you've seen?
One of the biggest changes is no change. Like, there aren't many new chocolatiers in London who've opened stores. Whether that's because it is expensive. We opened 14 years ago when property prices were more affordable, and all the areas that are now not trendy, that are now trendy, weren't trendy, and so on. I think it's hard for people. I think it's very difficult to make money being a chocolatier. It's a long-term investment, and you've got to have lots of revenue streams coming in. You can't just sell from a shop. So it's a shame that there aren't more coming through, but it takes a lot of money, and it's very, very hard work. It's harder work than when I was working as pastry chef for Mark Pierre White, and we were doing 18-hour days some days. I think the biggest change is availability with social media. We can get in contact with growers and producers. The variety of chocolate we can get is amazing. The huge, massive growth in bean to bar craft makers, around the time when Dick Taylor started and Mass Brothers in the US. That is just grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. That's the biggest growth, I think, is people making chocolate from the bean. The issue with that is that if everybody uses the same suppliers from the same producers, all the chocolate starts to taste very similar. So a lot of the craft makers go to the same growers. Interesting, actually, because everyone's slightly different, but you're either looking at the branding of it. Is it a really cool branding, which is what Mass Brothers started, or is it about the chocolate, and is the chocolate different? Is it refined enough palate wise and taste wise to fit lots of people's wants and needs?
Absolutely. From all that you said, that there are moments when you have like a love-hate relationship with the sector, but as an industry as a whole, would you say you've enjoyed playing your part in it?
Oh, absolutely. It's very colourful. There's a lot of, it's a very complex and complicated industry. There are so many levels to it, layers to it, and there's so many people doing fantastic things to get people to understand what real chocolate is. So Martin Christie, who has the International Chocolate Award, and he has I've forgotten the name of it now, actual qualification for tasting chocolate. And the Academy of Chocolate have been running for years, who are trying to get more people involved. There are lots of people doing that. Thank goodness for social media as well, to be able to share that around. But I do enjoy it. But I think anything that I did or do with my life, I'm going to love bits of it and really hate bits and go, wish I could just do the love bits, but without the other bits, you haven't got the good bits. My advice is, it's very hard to make a definition of why you're different, why your products are different, but you do have to stand out from everybody else. You have to have a story, you have to have an ethos, you have to take time to put that together. It took me over a year to do that, before we started the business, because I knew that customers will ask questions. What's your story? How did you learn? Where did you start? Why your chocolate's different than Belgian chocolates? Because that's what everybody knew at the time. What are you going to do in 5 years' time? You've got to answer lots of questions on paper first. Can you answer them? Do you know what it means when someone asks you, why are you different? And can you say you're different because, and it be real and true? You can't just say, oh, they're handmade, because lots of people hand make. So it's a fantastic journey. There are lots of ups and there are lots of downs, but that's part of running a business.
Well, here's hoping it's not too painful an experience for us all in the coming months, and just as you said initially, just try to crack on and just keep on.
I think people will pull together. I think honestly, we'll get through it. And British people, we're all very resilient. It's like it will come together, and we'll look back and go, yeah, it was difficult, but look at the opportunity it has brought us. Look at all the new challenges, but as in challenges being all the fantastic businesses setting up, reopening, and new ones opening. So I think once we tip the scales tip to the positive, which is everything's up and running again, there's a bit more of an atmosphere, everyone's feeling positive, and everyone's working together, because everyone's going to be a little bit closer than they were before, because everyone's in the same boat.